Just 6 months ago, Sheikh Hasina's Awami League secured a fourth consecutive term in office in an election that the opposition boycotted because of many irregularities. But now the ruling party faces its biggest challenge yet, as hundreds of thousands have taken to the streets in protest against a quota system that reserves government jobs for regime supporters. Currently a telecoms blackout in the country, and students and journalists have been killed. The latest figure is 140 people. Regime supporters are on the streets, and this is leading to a standoff with protesters. This is probably the biggest challenge yet to Sheikh Hasina's time in government. Here to help me make sense of all of this is Kareem, who is our South Asia analyst, and he's also a lawyer on the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. Assalamualaikum, Kareem. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah, I'm okay.
Good. I think let's jump straight in. There's a lot to discuss. Probably a good place to start would be, can you just describe to us in the last week or so what's actually happened? We see at the moment there's a telecoms blackout. It seems the ruling party, they've been caught off guard, they've been caught off the back foot. Can you just explain to us how things have got to where they are?
Well, the last 1 week in Bangladesh is being a protest on the street in a massive scale, such a scale that we have never seen in the history of Bangladesh. We don't know what happened in 1971, but the people, in the immediate past, we cannot reckon that a protest and a violence of that scale ever happened in Bangladesh. And the things actually started off with the small things. The few students, university students, they started the protest against the discriminatory quota system, which is the reserved seat in the government jobs, in the civil servant jobs, for some members of the freedom fighters family, freedom fighters who fought against the Pakistani army in 1971. So there's a considerable amount of seats are reserved for those people, members of the freedom fighters, and it's been discriminatory because the students, those got married, they cannot get the job. They're very competitive, despite having that qualification, they cannot get it because of this quota system. They feel that they are being discriminated. So this issue actually is not a new issue, because in 2018 there was the protest on this issue, and at that time the government actually accepted the people's students and the protesters' proposal. But later on, the court actually interfered, and the court said, in court verdict, it said that quota system stay on. And now again the students, they came on the street and they started protest, but the things get out of control when the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she made a comment on a piece addressing the nation, addressing the protester, and she particularly mentioned that the word called Rajakar, the collaborator of those who collaborated with the Pakistani army during the 1971, and this word is a very defamatory, derogative word in the Bangladesh perspective. And she mentioned that if I do not give the job to the freedom fighters, should I give it to the collaborators, to the Rajakars? And that actually hurt the student, and because they could not accept that they are asking for something which is their right, and they are now labeled as a Rajakar. So that actually made the anger, and then all the students from all public and private universities, they start protesting, they came on the street. And then the second mistake that the government, I think they did, that they then unleashed their student wings, the Sakra League, who are known for its violent attitudes, and they actually take on this issue, and they beat some of the students, they vandalized them, then threatened them, and then the students, they got even more angry with this, the way the government handled the issue. And then they came out on the street, and it became a protest all over the country. And at that point, we noticed that the general people also joined up, and they also came on the street. And because there was a long-standing anger people had against this government, against the system, because the system failed in many aspects to fulfill the people's basic needs, despite the narrative of the developments. But on the ground, there is a huge economic problem that people are suffering on the ground. The prices of the essentials are very high, and the inflation is skyrocketing, and there are other issues. People are suffering. All the anger actually came out, and the people on the street. And this is how the things got really worse. And then the police, they used the force, and they used the excessive force. They killed some of the students at the very close range in a blind shot. And when these things actually goes out on the social media, the people, they could not take it. And now I would say this is no more that this quota reform issue only. It is now the people are expressing their anger, and they want the justice. They want the government. They're now demanding that the Hasina must step down because they cannot take it anymore. This is how the things got really bad. And the government was forced to deploy the other paramilitary forces. And then finally on Friday, the government announced that they asked for the military, the army, to come on the street and to quell these protesters, and also to suppress this protest. The government disconnected the internet and the telecommunication system. So everybody is in the, it's effectively a blackout now. So we don't know actually on the ground what's happening, but what we get the message on the social media is very horrific. And because police and the law enforcement agency, they are very, very, brutal, and they're killing these people. And as you mentioned in the beginning, that so far we know the 140 people died, and most of them are very young students, as young as the student of class 9. The people cannot take it. And also the thousands of protesters are injured, and the protesters also set fire on some of the government buildings, the institutions. Like they broke the prison from where reportedly almost 800 inmates actually played. They burned down the Bangladesh television, which is the official broadcasting agency, on the accusation that these TV channels, they are not reporting everything. They are, because they are also under the pressure from the government side not to televise all these things. So things are actually is out of control. And as we are speaking now today on Sunday, the government has announced the curfew will continue for the indefinite period until the things get right. But in the meantime, we got the news that the Bangladesh Supreme Court, it had a special session this morning, and the Supreme Court announced that the quota system is scaled back. The government is actually accepted the demand of the student. But would that stop the protest? Would that squell the demonstrator? We don't know, because the things started from the quota reform issue, but it is now much more than that.
Mm-hmm. So Kareem, this quota system, what was its purpose when it originally came about? Was it really to actually help the freedom fighters, or did it have a more political objective, for supporters to gain easy jobs into the civil service?
Right, I think it's a very important question, and it needs to be more explanation, because every country, I think they have some reserve seat for the people who are less able to compete, who are somehow socially behind. So, but in Bangladesh, what happened? This quota system for the civil servants jobs is, if we round up, is about 56% of the job is actually reserved. And out of this 56%, 30% is for the members of the freedom fighters, the veterans of the 1971. But the issue is, this is actually mostly politically used. That is why the people are not happy about it, because that in 1971, if someone fought against the Pakistani army, that person is now, even if he was 15 years old that time, after 53 years, now that person is like almost 70 years now. So he doesn't need the job. Neither his sons and daughters. Is the grandson and granddaughters, they are taking the advantage of this. And what happened, that this against the one person, now maybe that person has 15, 20 grandsons or granddaughters. So if all of them are, here, then the student, actually who are studying hard, getting the qualification, they are not getting the chance to get into the job. And not only this, this quota is being used in different states. When there is a university admission, they are taking the advantage of the quota. And when they're getting into the job, they're taking the advantage of the quota. And even within the job, when there is a promotion in the job, they are taking the advantage of this quota. And in the pensions, everywhere. So it's not that the people disrespect the freedom fighters, but it's being, they are giving too much. And against one person now, maybe 30% or 25% are taking this advantage. And actually, the other people are being deprived. And not only this, this current ruling party, Awami League, they claim that they represent the freedom fighters. And because the Prime Minister Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he was the leader in 1971 when the freedom fight took place. So they take the leadership of this sentiment, and they say that they represent the freedom fighters. So what happens effectively, all this 30% at least goes to their favorite person, the loyalist to this Awami League, and whoever is they wish to. So this is how actually country is divided, and the general people, they cannot take it, because it's after 53 years of independence, if we are still divided on the same issue, what happened in 1971, then how can we move forward? You do not appreciate the merit of the student. Then what happened? These students, they are already frustrated because there are not enough job in the country, and neither in the private sector, nor in the government sector. Some people, some of them who can afford, they go out, they go to Europe or America for better job. But not everybody can do that. There are the people from the poor background, from the villages. The whole family invested huge amount of money on their son so that the son can go and get admission in a good university in Dhaka, and after passing from that university, getting the qualification, they will get a job. That is the expectation people have, but they cannot get the job because of this quota system. On the top, there is in the private sector, there is a huge job crisis. So this caused frustration, and we have seen in last few years, if you look at the news from Bangladesh, you see a lot of students, they committed even suicide. The frustration level is so high. From the university, the hall and the student dorm, they jumped out and they committed suicide with the note that it was my mistake that I was born in this country. So that is the level of frustration the students have. So they did not have any choice but to come out on the street and protest against this quota system.
So Karim, looking at the size of the protests and how widespread it is, it would seem the underlying issue is more than just job opportunities. What other underlying issues are driving
the protest? From one issue, it now is become the mass protest, because in the other sectors, in other areas, this frustration, was in everywhere, and actually was like, the recipe of the disaster was ready there. People were actually waiting for some ignition. That was the situation of the country. So when, people are actually waiting for, something to happen, because the anger was there, and because of the economic injustice, because of the people did not have the political right, they could not vote in the last election, not in the previous elections. This is the third consecutive election that was rigged by this ruling party. There's no proper election. So people are denied of their political rights. People do not have the economic security, no jobs. And also people have frustration with the other issues, like in the education, in the healthcare sector, everywhere. Though Bangladesh is portrayed as a very progressive economy in the South Asia, but under the surface, if you just closely, then you will see that this development is very cosmetic. It's just some flyovers, the metro rails, some mega projects that was undertaken by this ruling party with the foreign loan from foreign countries like China. But actually, the conditions of people living, the living standard, has not been improved. The statistics actually would not reveal you the right picture, because yes, some people who are close to the government, who are close to these rulers, they have huge amount of money. So if you see the figure, you will see that, okay, the per capita income has tripled in last 15 years. But that because only a section of people has made huge amount of money. But the general people, they are still in that sufferings. So everybody, the discontentment and the anger was there, and they were waiting for something to happen like this. And when the student, they start protesting, and then when people see that the police actually killing the innocent student, and the Satro League, the student wings of the ruling party, they are also being very barbaric and, beating the student, especially the female student, insulting them, threatening them. The people took the opportunity, and then they come out, and then they expressing their frustration, and they demanding that the Hasina must step down.
So, Kareem, Bangladesh for a while now was being presented as this economic success story, the next tiger economy. It seems that hasn't quite worked out. And what's happened to these? There was all these infrastructure projects that were really being touted by the IMF and the World Bank, which is this is the way to economic development. So, have these not helped the country?
Well, it helped only in a section of people, those who are very close to the rulers, loyalists to the rulers. For the general people, and this so-called development means nothing, because the basic needs are not being fulfilled. The people are struggling to fulfill their basic needs. The clean water, the food, price of the essential foods, and air quality. In Dhaka is the worst city in the world now, in terms of the air pollution. So, and also in the countryside, in the village, the farmer, they are struggling with the fertilizers and other support. In the healthcare sector, the people cannot afford the healthcare sector. But those who are close to the government, who are in a loyalist of the rulers, they made a huge amount of money. And they can easily go to Singapore or Dubai for their treatment, or even London and Paris. But the general people, they cannot afford. We have seen the mother gave birth of child outside the hospital because she cannot afford the hospital cost. We have seen the people committing suicide, the farmer committing suicide because he cannot pay back the loan he have taken from the NGOs. So the situation on the ground are not as rosy as it looks like from the outside. This is a very cosmetic development. We see maybe it looks nice, but inside, deep down, the situation even worse. And few infrastructure like recently the government completed a bridge called on the river of Padma Bridge, and they are very proud of it because they have done it. But people seen that this bridge is now being open and for the Indian transit. The India, they will take their goods from one part of the Indian state, from the eastern state to their other state, West Bengal. So people are frustrated because this development is not for us. Is helping India more than the us. So people cannot trust this government anymore because of this. What's happening on the ground. And recently the Prime Minister, she visited India, and even she gave transit to the India and railway too, to run within Bangladesh, through the Bangladesh from one part of India to the other part. And this is a recent issue that all people could not take it easily, because there is an anti-Indian sentiment within Bangladesh, because the government always claim that India is a friendly country, but we have report that India, they kill people on the border, allegedly for smuggling issues. And from there, India stopped the rivers. We have the common rivers, and India erected the dams on the river. And due to this, we are now having a very ecological disasters. The rivers, because Bangladesh is known for its rivers, and the rivers are drying, no water is there. So farmers are struggling to cultivate. So, there are many issues with India. The people on the ground are not happy. But the government has very close ties with India. And recently, the Sheikh Hasina, in her visit to India, she gave the transit. So that was another issue that people was not happy about it, and they want, when they find this opportunity, they came on the street. And another issue was recently we have seen lot of ex-police officers ex high official in the Bangladesh taxation department, who are very close to government. And recently, and we have the report came out that they have made huge amount of money. Some of them they fled from Bangladesh to USA with this money. So people are not happy about this corruption. The scale of corruption and the made people actually frustrated. And also in the judiciary system, people have no more trust, because what we have seen that the government, whenever they need, they easily manipulate the judiciary. In the media, government also control the media. The situation was like, very suffocating for people, because there was no way to account them. It's like controlling all the department, all the organs of the state, and Sheikh Hasina became like a true dictator. So when people have no way to express their anger, or no way to, no scope to account the rulers, they have no choice but to come on the street and join the protest.
So, Kareem, the Shatra League, what role have they played in the protests?
What we have seen in the democratic system, that the ruling party, they always foster a wings, a cadre wings, I would say, so who can protect them. And we have not only for Awami League government, even in the past, the other government, they also had these wings. And mostly it's the student wings. For the Awami League, it's the Chhatra League, and they are the cadre wings of the governments, and their role is to protect the government from this sort of issues when there's a protest among the student, or even in the outside. And this Chhatra League has become the monster now for the country, I would say, because they get support from the government, and in all over the country now they control the business. They control the government tenders, and they control even the administration, to the level that even if you go to a countryside in a police station, if you want to file a case against someone, the police first of all will check whether this person is from Chhatra League or not. This is the control they have. So they have become like a parallel, a policing force for the government. So the Chhatra League, when they interfere in the students' protest, and especially when they insulted some of the female students, threatened them and beat them, then the situation got even worse. So Chhatra League is there for protecting the government.
So, Kareem, what's been the international reaction to the crisis?
This crisis is covered in all the international media we have seen, but from the international organization and the state, we have so far got the very usual, response. Like the U.S. embassy, they say that they are closely monitoring. They condemn the violence, and they ask both parties to be patient. And similarly, from the UN Secretary General also expressed his deep concern, and they said that we're closely monitoring. It's like the usual stuff. What happens when something happen in anywhere, they give this usual statement. But so far, we haven't seen anyone making any comment, taking a side of any side. They are all expecting the peaceful solution to this, and human rights be protected, so that people can peacefully demonstrate. This sort of like usual statement we have received from the international communities. But at the same time, I would mention that the Bangladesh has a huge amount of expatriate living all over the world, in the Middle East, in Europe and America, in Australia. And we have got news from all over the world that Bangladeshis people, they are protesting even outside Bangladesh and wherever they are, even in London, in France, and in Middle East, everywhere. People are expressing their concern. And in this protest, we have seen that most of the people actually demanded that Hasina should step down, and they criticize the policy brutality, and because it is so barbaric, no one can take it. We haven't seen that people are divided. The exploited people are divided. They are all on the same boat. They're all asking that justice must be done to those who have sacrificed their life. So people are not talking about the quota system only now. They all are demanding the justice.
So final question, Kareem, how do you see this playing out? Is this the beginning, the end of the Awami League?
Well, it's very hard to say at this moment because the Awami League government came to the power in 2009. It was in power previously, but since 2009 it is consecutively on the power. And in 2009, when it came on power, it came back very strongly because when it came after military-backed interim government in 2007 to 9, and then what we understand that there was a negotiation between the US, India, and UK. They came to the power with that negotiation, so they came very strongly. And when they came, first of all, we had an issue of mutiny within the paramilitary sector of Bangladesh. It's called BDA, and in that mutiny, a lot of people died. Hundreds of army officers died, and that was the biggest challenge back in 2009. But Sheikh Hasina, as she got the backup from the all quota, she could easily manage that. And then later in 2013, there was just following the Arab Spring, the similar kind of protest was in Bangladesh, and it was mostly by the student from the madrasa, the Islamic school background, and it started because of the defamatory publication on the internet against the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So students came out. It started with that, but again it became a revolutionary demonstration. But finally, on 13th May, when the students gathered in Dhaka in numbers of huge, millions of students, but Sheikh Hasina managed that somehow, and reportedly, the army and the security forces, they killed many of the students, and she managed to get away with it. And now this time round, she is also trying with her security forces, with her student wings, Chhatralik, and we don't know what is going to happen. But this time surely is difficult because now the social media is even stronger. She cannot hide everything, and also the frustration has reached to a very escalating level. To the level now is everybody they are not caring for anything. When people do not care for their life, this is where the things become so difficult for government to control. So this time is definitely very challenging for Sheikh Hasina, but we don't know actually what's going to happen. We have got the report from the army that if within the army even there is a disagreement, some section of armies, they are not willing to go out and kill people to protect this government because they can see the government is disconnected from the people. So if the army can sense this properly, and they stop giving the support to this regime, then regime has to step down. All depending on this army, because in our countries, the army's actually got the ultimate power. And now it all depends on how the army will act and whether they will listen to any of these foreign powers who are the friends of Hasina. If they listen to them, then they will save Hasina. And if they listen to the people, then they will not go to the street and kill people. And then Hasina will have no choice but to step down. So we'll have to wait and see how these people of power, the army, they respond to this crisis. Whether they take the side of the people or the side of the rulers.
Okay, definitely. That's something we're going to be keeping an eye on, the geopolitics. Thanks for your time today, Kareem. That was good insight into the state of play in Bangladesh. If you want to learn more about the issues raised today, please check out our website, thegeopolity.com. You can also learn more on other issues by accessing our website, where you will find comprehensive insights, analysis, articles, and deep dives. I'm Adnan, and thank you for listening.